member of our community who I'm sure, quite sure in fact, has questions and concerns about the very revelatory details that Chris, you actually said in your report last night about the cost for the quarantine facility and the isolation facility. Senator Frank Blas Jr., who joins us now. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. Good morning, Bree. Good morning, Chris.
Morning.
I like it when you join us for
Bob.
our canopy conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Senator,
I kind of hinted, I kind of showed you a little bit a while earlier as to why I'm outside, so I
right,
can't do that inside.
right. Well, it's a beautiful Friday morning. Senator, we're going to start. There's a whole bunch of stuff we want to ask you about. We're going to start kind of with the letter that you had written to the Attorney General. Basically asking, hey, this audit came out about the question quarantine costs $3 million. Who's going to be held accountable? Have you received a response yet?
No, I have not. And just to clarify, it's at least $3 million. That's what's concerning. It could be considerably more.
Not even acknowledgement of your letter?
No, they've acknowledged. At least that's what I read from your news report. So yeah.
We're like the middleman around here.
It's been over a week or two, right, since you sent that?
And it has. I had all intentions of okay, they've received it. I know they've received it. They need to go through the review. I am going to write, and I've already penned the letter, just waiting for it to hit send. Of okay, so you got it. Now what? So and that will be done early part of next week if nothing transpires today or over the weekend.
Right, Senator. This is a question I believe we asked the AG last year during the pandemic, but I believe he has a personal relationship with the governor's former legal counsel and son-in-law. But you know what? I was thinking this morning, because they pulled the trigger so fast to sue KEPCO and these companies up here with the Marble Cave. And so you can tell he has eyes on current events, but I'm just wondering why we didn't see that same kind of reaction from this audit and its findings. I mean, he could have easily appointed an independent, and that's what I think it's going to take because of their office's involvement in all this. It's going to take the appointment of an independent prosecutor or something to look into this, which is, to me, I don't understand why that hasn't been done already.
Well, I'm not going to speculate as to why it hasn't been done yet as well. However, I do recognize and I do understand. I don't have that firsthand information that there is a relationship between the AG and who was at that time serving as the governor's legal counsel. And does that pose an issue that requires alternative action, or in form of possibly hiring another attorney, outside attorney, to do this, or whatever other legal means, other means they have, that remains to be seen. I can assume, and that's probably why it's taken this long. That said, though, is again, like I said, is nothing transpires today or over the weekend. Come Monday, press send, and we'll take it from there again. But I am no way not just going to write a letter and say, okay, hand it off, and it's all yours, and just forget about it. This is something that is quite serious, and it has a lot of ramifications. Possibly, like you said, it has at least $3 million worth of concern, possibly more, and it needs to be investigated. And what I tell you, I mean, my conversation with the public auditor very recently was the question was, okay, what teeth do you have in going after, when discrepancies are found or violations, malfeasance or whatever, if you do find it as a result of this audit that is required, what then, what next can be done, because it is quite concerning. I mean, if I did not write a letter, or if I did not bring this to the attention, of the ADs in the manner that I did, how would it have been handled with? We can't just simply say, okay, thank you for the audit. Yeah, we recognize that $3 million was misspent. So
Yeah.
don't do it again.
Right.
That doesn't work.
Hey, nice audit. Right on. Thank you. Put that in the shredder. That's what we think of that. Senator, we had Jenna Blas on yesterday, and man, I didn't get the clip, but I'm pretty sure you heard about the interview, or maybe had seen the story. What did you make of the fact that so last year we had talked to Charles Estevez, the administrator at GHS OCD, and he had said that they had been tasked with recreating the procurement record, which, if you read the audit, didn't even exist. And so that was last year. And then we had Jenna on yesterday, a year later, come to find out that they're still trying to put all the documents together so that they can submit something that isn't embarrassing to FEMA, so that we can get reimbursed for this over $3 million that was spent on this quarantine. So, I mean, it seems even more egregious when we come to find out that some very tenured and seasoned, government officials can't even put something together to submit to Uncle Sam.
Well, I was in those shoes once before. Fortunately, I can say that a couple of decades ago. And knowing the process, first off, in order for it to be considered by FEMA for reimbursement, the first litmus test, the first test is whether or not the procurement was conducted within the confines, within the limits of the local law. Did you follow local law to be able to do this procurement? And if it where is all the paperwork? Okay, we need the paperwork to show its justification, how it was spent, how much was spent, and who benefited, from that service or the procurement of those items. And then it can be considered by FEMA. I think that first off, we got a couple obstacles that apparently need to be overcome before it's submitted by FEMA. First off, is that procurement legal? Okay, and now obviously, as a result, I mean, based on the audit conducted by the OPA, there are some questions as to whether or not it was conducted within the confines, in conformance with our procurement law. Okay, that's the first flag. Second flag now is obviously, it's been well over a year since this has occurred. Where's all the paperwork? And who's going to be able to say that, yes, this is what I did, and yes, that was done. And when you can't do that, I can understand now why there's a problem when putting this package together. It's not like FEMA saying, okay, we won't deal with it now, we'll deal with it later. FEMA saying, we're ready to deal with it. Where is it? And we can't bring it up over a year from after it was done. It does pose problems, and hence it goes back to, again, my letter written to the AG about on the concern, and more importantly, it goes back to the audit that was performed by the OPA showing these discrepancies. Now what? Okay, and unfortunately, we're stuck in a conundrum in that it's now in the hands of the AG's office to be able to determine whether a lot of this stuff, and if we don't move on it, we're not even going to see the light of day with regards to at least $3 million. Again, I have to caution, and I have to reiterate that while the floor here is the $3 million, it could conceivably be more, because one action dictates and basically legitimizes any future action. So if you're going to do a future action because you're trying to cover up an illegitimate action, it doesn't make that action now legal. herein lies again further concern.
Right, but do you think FEMA would understand that it was an emergency situation, an emergency that no one ever has had to deal with? We had this pandemic. It was COVID. The governor has superpowers. You know, do you think that maybe they'd understand and say, you know, she was under a lot of pressure. They had to get that quarantine facility.
She was under a lot of pressure. The legal counsel never worked in the government before. You know, they're just making it up as they go along. And
I guess to answer your questions in the order that I was given, no, 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 and no. Okay. Okay. You know what I failed to mention in the process is one of the things that they look at is was there a plan? Did you have a plan to be able to deal with the disaster? Albeit this was an emergency that has never been dealt with before, but it was not the type of emergency that was not that should have been planned for before. In fact, if you look at the response plan, okay, first off, there's a national response plan and then there's a local response plan, of which I know, you know, it exists because, you know, we worked on it. You know, I was in that area where that it was a requirement for you know, local jurisdictions all over the United States to come up with a response plan, and it dealt with different scenarios, and one of them being a public health emergency based on a pandemic. So there was a pandemic response plan, and in that response plan is the procurement, how things are going to be procured. You know, what should we anticipate as needed to be procured? I know that was worked on because, again, that's in the plan because I remember I worked on the plan. You know, there is a plan to deal with a surge for medical capacity. There's a plan for evacuation. There's a plan for quarantine. There's a plan for procurement. There's even a plan for, you know, mass casualties. So I know it exists. Now, if we did not follow that plan, if we can't check off that box, you know, that says, do you have a plan? You know, you probably could check off yes. Did you use the plan? There's no maybe. It's yes or no. Okay. Now, in that plan, these procedures exist. And if you didn't follow that, it's really hard-pressed to be able to get any reimbursement. Which goes back to my concern. How are we going to pay for this? You know, and who's responsible?
That's a good question.
Hello?
yeah. I'm just letting that marinate for a second. Yep.
Kind of dumbfounded you or something. But yeah, no, that's the concern. I mean, you know, it goes back to so. I quite honestly, I did not, you know, Chris, you promised that you were going to play the clip this morning, but okay. So I did not prepare myself in advance for it, but knowing well that this is the process that is necessary, and you can't meet that criteria if you can't check off those boxes. You can see, you know, and they're having problems, you know, putting it together over a year later.
Yeah, I think that was a big reveal, Senator, is that all these things you're saying about the process and what they can and can't do. I think if they were able to put something together that would satisfy the feds, they would have done it by now. And, you know, Bree said that, you know, if would the feds be understanding about it? I think if they were going to be, it would have come out. I mean, it's been a year, right? And we've been reimbursed for other procurements already.
And I know of at least a couple of documents that the feds are going to take a real good look at. I think if you can recall, there was some concern as to whether or not there was some authorization, if you will, to place electronic signatures in a couple of those documents.
Yeah,
you
I
can
remember
recall back.
there wasn't a question. Linda DeNorsi at the time, Linda Pinko DeNorsi came out and said, "I did not authorize my signature to be used
Mhm.
for the procurement of."
Mhm.
I mean, she said that in the hearing, and then Adelup had tried to confuse the issue and said, "Oh, she didn't really remember what you know." But I mean, yeah, in recreating the procurement record, I mean, what are these guys going to do? Are they going to use Linda DeNorsi's digital signature, or are they going to put all of Hai Hyun's mean emails as part of the procurement record? It
Yeah,
doesn't seem
yeah,
like
and,
it's going to hold up.
yeah, and who was responsible for, who committed those acts, if you will? Uh, clear in violation of not just the procurement law, there's clear violation of other areas within Guam law. So who's responsible for that? As well. Those are going to raise the flags. Hence, FEMA says until you clear this up on your end, not on their end, on our end, until that is cleared, it cannot be accepted or will not be accepted. That said, is FEMA would actually be patient in trying to, so that you can gather all the documents, recreate everything that you need to recreate. Because to this day there are some disasters that still haven't been closed. With FEMA that we requested from FEMA for assistance, and some of these disasters, are going on, 7-8 years already,
Right.
and it's not uncommon.
Yeah.
However, in a case such as this, the delay in moving on it is not because we failed to retain the receipt, from the that we got from the store for procuring an item. In this case, a lot of it is, we failed to follow the laws of the island, the laws that we have to follow in Guam. So therefore, how do you then now recreate something that has happened in that fashion to a point where it now becomes legal? It may not, so therefore we may not get reimbursed. Okay. And again, maybe they could, but I think that the concern is right, in that it's taken long, and that there were many discrepancies that go past just trying to get a reimbursement for $3 million. There are discrepancies that basically says that you violated Guam law. And it was very clear in when the OPA audit that while we were under a state of emergency, that declaration in itself doesn't preclude or doesn't abscond you from having to follow what is already written in law. Okay, there is law in the books, procurement law in the books, as to how to conduct emergency procurement. And if you don't follow that, no executive order will be able to unravel that.
Well, speaking of executive orders, what do you make of the announcement and this letter from John Jr. Calvo to Daphne Shimizu regarding the executive order that's coming out for the All Rise program?
All rise.
Did you see that?
There was nothing that was said by the Treasury or provided by the Treasury back in May that was any different from now saying, okay, now we can do it. There was nothing that was said by the Treasury or the authorization or the assurance by the Treasury back in July, and again reiterated in July that changed anything or that said that you couldn't do it. So I'm glad now that there's a realization that it can be done. Okay, on their part, this is something that me and some of my other colleagues have harped on, if you will. The concern I have is the timeline. Okay, applications will be ready for for those who want to apply for this, no later than September 1st. Okay. What application? I mean, come on. I think that if somebody sits behind a computer to draft up an application process based on the on what has always been the guideline and what should have been the guideline, you can do that in a day. You can do it in less than a day. Okay? There are people that need that money today that can surely appreciate that money today so that they can get the things that they need. They can help to prepare their kids to go back to school. They can avoid being disconnected from from the water and their power and want to buy gas for their car today. We can't hold that off. Oh, we don't worry, we don't have to gas. We'll wait to gas the car on September 1st. It doesn't work that you said it earlier so succinctly. This is something that we've never experienced before. It is hard. It is fast. It is severely, and for those that don't receive a paycheck every other week, and wasn't able to do that throughout this pandemic. It's easy for somebody who's getting a paycheck today to say, okay, we can possibly hold this off until September. Try find being in that position of that individual, okay, who needs that, who's already used up all of their savings, doesn't have is trying to find a job that can help them to bring them, bring back some normalcy in their life. And oh, by the way, in the job that they're going to get, part of the thing they're going to need to do is replenish the savings that they've depleted over the last 15 months. So they're not going to get back to normal once they get into a job. So I found telling them, wait until September, and then you can possibly be eligible and receive the amount from the All Rise Act.
Senator, your comments very compassionate, right? You're talking about people who needed this money today. I would say they needed it in January, right? But why aren't we seeing that same compassion from this administration? They don't say anything about people needing the money. They just kind of ignore the public outcry
Chris,
for this, and
Chris, and I have to reminisce on the days when before I got back into the fray, and I'll go back to May of last year, okay? May of last year, when things were shut down, people were no longer have jobs and everything. I think one of the things we forgot that back in those days, people were trying to find ways to get food. All right, and so we put a couple, even Canada put a number of food drives together. Okay, you've witnessed it. You've seen it firsthand. You've covered it. Okay, of the thousands of people who waited in line, for hours, for the opportunity to get a 15, 20-pound bag, of food. Things that months prior, they had no difficulty in walking into a store to be able to procure. But in those situations, in those times, they had no means and had to sit there for hours and wait for hours to be able to. We forgot about that. And we also, what really bothered me back in those days is that while that was happening, the response we got from the administration was, "Oh, I didn't know we had a food bank." Okay, why did it take it was the community that first came out with this, and maybe rightly so, because the less government involvement you have in your lives, the better. But it was the community that first came out with. I think we better put some. How can we help? Let's put together these drives so that we can help people. It wasn't until later the government, and really, it wasn't the executive branch that started it. It was the Department of Education. It was John Fernandez and his group.
Yeah. And Senator, I just want to share. It was just 6 days ago. They had another food distribution, and hundreds lined up to receive food assistance. Right? Yeah. We're up against the top of the hour. Just last question: we have confirmed with the governor's communications director, Crystal Paco San Augustine, that the $30 million cap for the All Rise will remain in place. Your comments on that before the top of the hour?
Why? You know, I mean, it goes back to this could be a topic for another discussion. Okay, you told us back in May that you were going to share with the legislature your plans on how you're going to spend your $603 million that you got in the ARP funds. Okay, it is now August. Okay, and you're saying now you're waiting for guidance, which was provided back in May, by the way, and then reaffirmed back in July. Okay, so our understanding is this the money for this Rise Act is that's going to be the funding source. Okay, why? What do you intend to do? Okay, now we know 30 million. Okay, what do you intend to do with the rest? Okay, and why? I mean, Rise Act, American Rescue Plan. It's supposed to go back. You look at that. It's supposed to go back to help communities, rescue communities from the economic devastation caused by this disaster. Whoa, it's 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Senator. It's been a good canopy conversation.
Okay. We'll have more.
Yeah,
Yes.
please save some for next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's
Hey,
done.
Thank
you guys have a
you.
great enjoy the rest of the day. Have a great weekend.
Right
You
on.
too.
Right on. There you go. Hey, it is 8 o'clock. We're gonna take just a super quick break, super quick, and we're coming back on KUAM TV. Good morning.
Learn more.
We got your 6.
At 6 a.m. with the link on Breeze 93.9 FM. Bree and I connect you with all the latest news and information
What are the
you need to know to start your day.
Then check back with Guam's news.